Buddies, it's almost here. We're going to Jasper. It is the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament. We were there last year, had a heck of a time. We're going back again. Shout out to our friends at Tourism Jasper, and it's presented by Booster Juice. Booster Juice. Now, space is limited for this tournament. It's going to be held at the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge. It is beautiful. Nation Network going to be there. We got the Oilers guys and Leaf guys. We're going to have some fun. Edmonton plays Calgary on the Saturday night. We're all going to get together, watch it. Frank Seravalli's coming in from Philadelphia. We're going to have a fun time. You should get there. Space very limited. You can go to chehockey.com to get more information. Maybe you can get a team in there. But by all means, follow along on social media as we'll be doing our thing. The Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament, fueled by Booster Juice. Download the new Booster Rewards app today. Start earning berry points for delicious and nutritious smoothies, drinks, and food that'll get you through the day. It's the new year, right? Everybody's doing the New Year's resolution thing. Being healthy. Be healthy with Booster Juice.
Well, it was fast, physical Flyer-style hockey, and the Flames ultimately fall 3-2 in Philadelphia for their first loss on this road trip. Welcome to Afterburner, friends. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. You tuning in this afternoon or whenever you're watching. Cami and Ryan here to break this thing down. Ryan, I felt like the Flyers really got under Calgary's skin. Like the Flames spent a lot of time in the box, gave them 6 power plays, and their composure really seemed to fizzle as the game went on. They allowed a lot of odd man rushes, and that was kind of how Philly found that open door to come back and win.
Yeah, it looked like a team that had been playing a lot of hockey. This was part of a stretch where the Flames have played every other day dating back to New Year's Eve with travel. And as much as, players will say, no, it's not a factor. I mean, when you're spending a lot of time in hotels and on planes and running around, eventually it wears on you. And the Flyers played a really smart home style game. They used their last change to basically isolate some Flames players. They wore them down. They were completely content to get into the blue paint and try to get Jacob Markstrom off his game. And I can't imagine the Flames penciled this game out exactly like this. They in the breakdown in FlamesNation.ca, I noted it basically felt like 2 games. At 5-on-5, the Flames outscored them 2-1, and they were a little bit outplayed by the Flyers. But I mean, the Flyers are a good team with on home ice, so you would expect that. But special teams, it was the special teams game was basically where the Flyers took things over. And like you said, I think the Flames, they were, I only use the term, they got suckered in a bit, but I mean, I'm not saying that because it did kind of feel like an older, wiser, a little bit more curmudgeonly team pushed them around a bit and made them take dumb penalties.
It's funny you say that because, like, at the beginning, this totally looked like it was going to be a goalie battle between Jacob Markstrom and Carter Hart. I know the shots were only 8 Calgary, 9 Philly in the first, but then Carter Hart got a little bit of a break and wasn't tested too terribly from there on out. But for Jacob Markstrom, you look at the second, 24 shots in 1 period for Philadelphia, and they just weren't finding ways to solve him. So in the third, we see them going after Markstrom every chance we get, and like, we saw him go after Garnet Hathaway. Markstrom did. Like, he's got Johnny Cash on his mask. God's not going to cut you down. Jacob Markstrom is going to try to cut you down. But if you get in his head, you'll take that, right?
This was one of the games where I was thinking in the back of my head, oh God, are we going to see a goalie fight? And I don't know if anyone turned off the broadcast after the final buzzer, but there was a big crowd of guys around the Flyers net at the end of the game. And Jacob Markstrom, thankfully, I guess, was already on the Flames bench because he'd been pulled the extra attacker. So in a 5-on-5 situation with Markstrom on the ice in that kind of a situation, maybe we would have seen a goalie given Carter Hart the business at the end of that. But yeah, it was one of those games where, the Flames, I know the Flyers are a team with flaws, but they're a team that's currently in a playoff spot. And I think they showed why today. They were just the better team in specific key scenarios. And, they showed some savvy in managing to find an advantage and then not let it go.
I guess maybe we'll throw in some of the bright side of this. We'll get to the Betway highlight of the night, which get the Betway app on your phone, bet the responsible way with Betway. I think there's really only one. And he was thanked for that by getting punched in the face 5 times by Scott Lawton.
I mean, people say thank you in many different ways, Cami.
He's a little salty that Huberdeau is making $7 million more than him. Who knows? But the physicality of this game, how do you think Calgary matched up to kind of that Flyers style of hockey? I kind of expected to see, we did see AJ Greer get nasty a little bit, doing the things that the Flames expected him to do when they picked him off of waivers, but he really didn't see that much ice time. So how did you see Calgary kind of rise or not rise to that occasion?
I think it was one of those challenges that they had because, there's two ways that teams should respond to physical play. If you get pushed around, you can push back. And if you have the personnel to do that, you can stop a team like Philadelphia from dictating the play. Bless their hearts, the Flames aren't a team built for that. They have AJ Greer, who's a very good role player. They have Martin Pospisil, who does that to a degree, but you probably don't want him getting into too much of a skirmish because of his concussion history. But beyond those guys, they don't really have a lot of guys that throw their body around, whereas the Flyers have a bunch of guys that can do that. And conversely, I mean, if the other team pushes you around and takes a lot of penalties, you're hoping that your power play, your special teams units can really make them hurt. But neither of those things really came to pass this afternoon. And as a result, I mean, we're talking about a Flames team that was challenged in a very specific way. And they're right now, both offensively and physically, they're just not built to respond in the ways they need to.
And they really got bit on some messy zone entries.
Yeah, I mean, I think their puck management in general was kind of a challenge in this game. They had some challenges on New Year's Eve initially against the Flyers. With the Flyers, even when they're not completely connecting on what they're doing, they've got some speed and they have some guys that use their sticks well. And this was the type of game where you're really hoping that your familiarity with your teammates can help create some good passes. It didn't really work out. A lot of stuff was hitting feet. A lot of stuff was sort of going, a foot or two off. We saw that especially in the offensive zone where, the Flames hallmark is those nice cycle plays where guys are moving and pucks moving. And if you're a defender, you have no idea if you're supposed to follow the puck or your man. And they completely were able to dismantle their own attacks just with passes that were a foot or two off. And maybe that's the fatigue of a long road trip, but the Flames didn't look nearly as composed offensively or otherwise as they were, say, in Nashville or Minnesota.
And I can see everyone in the comments going off about the refereeing. Some certain plays. Should Elias Lindholm, next to All-Star on his resume, add goon?
I mean, he has one. He exists in the hockey fight, and he had one fight in his NHL career in 2013. So Michael Backlund at least exists. You go to Elias Lindholm before tonight, and it's just a series of blank ledgers, and you go, "Is this a real page?" But yeah, that was his first career fight. He did okay. I'm curious what you think about that hit because that was just a weird hit. I mean, when you slow it down, it seems pretty obvious that, he sort of, it was a weird collision where one guy is sort of falling and ducking and trying to dodge at the same time. And one guy is, Elias Lindholm is not he's not a non-physical player, but it's sort of a pretty clear pinch out along the wall on his own entry that just goes completely sideways.
In there, but guys have also got to stop turning. The turning makes it so much worse.
Yeah, during the lengthy Christmas show, which do not watch in front of your family members, the boys had
The
Rob
tables
McGear
are
on.
still sticky in here.
Pinder
lied when he said it was going to be cleaned.
Oh no, yeah, Pinder lying. Yeah, that's we'll get into that later. But yeah, the Rob McGear talked about this. I think there's been, if you want to have an underlying storyline of the National Hockey League in the 23-24 season, I think we're sort of seeing the clash of guys that learned how to hit early and guys that didn't learn how to take a hit early, because, we're seeing a lot of guys that, some of these younger players we've seen a lot of them be put in vulnerable positions this year by sort of turning at weird times or throwing a hit at weird times. And, heck, we saw Chris Tanev this year get concussed in a game and, put the Flames down to 3 to 5 defensemen for an entire game and miss some time because I think he got hit when he wasn't expecting to get hit. In this case, if you're Cam York, you're going to have someone initiate contact with you on that play. And especially against the bench where you don't really have the glass to brace yourself with, so it's automatically a little bit more of a vulnerable position to get hit in to begin with. But you would have liked to have seen him do something different here because, he could have been seriously hurt. And, heck, Elias Lindholm could have been seriously hurt if a guy turns in a way that you don't anticipate. So thankfully it looked like everybody turned out okay, but it was a weird one. I know Chris Therien, a former Flyer, was on Twitter/X just remarking about how long the penalty review took. I'm kind of glad it took that long though, because it was a weird enough play that you kind of want to make sure that you get it right and make sure that that you're not really throwing the book at a guy that was just trying to throw a simple hit and wasn't trying to be predatory or anything.
Yeah, and Elias Lindholm had 6 PIMs up to this game this season. Now he has 9 alone in this game. Probably also very thankful that it was Farabee on the ice to kind of hold him accountable and not Hathaway or Delorier or somebody.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the Flyers have built their roster a specific way to compete/survive in that Eastern Conference where they play that kind of a trench warfare style at times. It used to be the sort of commonplace in the Wild West. It's sort of, I think of the Western Conference specifically, as you've seen teams sort of load up. If you're playing against Colorado and Vegas and Edmonton on a regular basis, you can't really afford to give up a roster spot to, for somebody whose utility on the ice might be a little bit minimal. But, I'll say this, Nick Delorier and Garnet Hathaway, they can throw them, but they're also pretty good hockey players. And, guys like that, we'll have Kent Wilson co-hosting tomorrow. Kent often, use the phrase functional toughness to describe guys that can throw them, but also guys that can score goals and play a regular shift and be regular contributors and aren't just sort of, for lack of a better term, novelties on the ice. The Hathaway and Delorier are those kind of guys. I'd say for the Flames, they have a couple of those guys, but they're not quite as noted pugilists as the Flyers have on their roster.
Pugilist. Good word. I hope you have like a list of words you're going to use tomorrow with Kent.
Oh, I have a notebook full of words. We're gonna try to get to lexicon. We got all kinds of words for tomorrow. So hopefully everyone can play along with us.
Perfect. Well, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna break down Jacob Markstrom. We've got your DoorDash hungry for more. Stay with us, won't you?
Greta, it's our home away from home for Afterburner. We'll be there for live watch parties throughout the season. Should be your spot regardless. Before, during, and after the game. Grab a cocktail, something from the menu, let the games begin, or maybe you get into the game yourself. Over 50 arcade games from vintage to state-of-the-art. Load up some credits on that Greta game card of yours and get at it. Greta Calgary, located at 213 10th Avenue Southwest. Check them out online, gretabar.com. Wendy's is letting you win real food with your fantasy teams this year with the Wendy's Daily Face-Off Survivor Pool. For those of you who smoked the competition, Wendy's is rewarding you with weekly prizes that'll have you winning despite your lack of team-building skills. Sign up to play the Daily Face-Off Survivor Pool to win weekly prizes like the spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's and the Wendy's app. Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972. More than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program and an unbeatable pricing policy. The holidays are here, can you tell? It's the perfect time to check out a large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds, mined diamonds, and don't pay until 2025 with their instant in-store financing OAC. For more information, go online, charmdiamondcenters.com.
BK Beaufort Liquor is a proud sponsor of Afterburner. In fact, our very first sponsor ever, right back to our first Afterburner ever. Big thank you to Mandeep, Manjeet, and Jazz. Huge Flames fans, a heck of a family. Good-looking cashier, Mandeep, as well. Find them right across from Winsport on the Trans-Canada Highway. Whether you're grabbing some beer for your place in town or you're heading to the mountains, make sure you stop in, say hello. Whether it's a specialty wine, liquor, six-pack of beer, whatever it is, check it out and grab it at BK Beaufort Liquor.
Taking another boo at the score sheet there in the break. And you mentioned, Piker, the scrum that we had at the end of the game. Looks like there were 6 penalties assessed in that one. Lindholm, Hannafin, and Huberdeau all, I I guess they roughed someone.
Yeah, I mean, if you were thinking the three guys in this team that you'd expect to get roughing minors at the end of a game, I don't know if those are the three guys that would, come up first. I mean, we famously saw John Tortorella flip his lid about a decade ago when the Flames put out some noted pugilists to begin a game. I don't think the Flames did that to end this game, but it was definitely an odd one. And I mean, I don't know, end of game penalties are basically they count for nothing outside of, ruining someone's Lady Bing contention. So I guess Elias Lindholm is sliding down the Lady Bing contenders list pretty quickly. But I mean, it shows you it was that kind of a game for teams that only see each other twice a year. There's a surprising amount of animosity between the Flames and the Flyers, and I know for the it's probably the same for the fans as it is for us schlubs in the media. But some games you're just going, oh God, give me something to write about or talk about, because there's only so much energy you can get for afternoon games against the Flyers or Tuesday night games against Minnesota or Ottawa or Nashville. But when there's some legit hate between the two teams, it makes the games a little bit easier for everybody to get through.
And to be clear, when you're talking about our favorite Kermage and John Tortorella, you're talking about the Vancouver game, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. What else? What other game could I guess with Torts, it's
he has examples. We
gotta sort it out. I think there was his scrum after the Flames game on New Year's Eve was 47 seconds long. Never change, Torts. We love you.
I mean, I could handle some changes. I think we could all stand to experience some personal growth. But anyway, the Flames really laid it on trying to find that equalizer towards the end of the game with about 7 minutes left. It looked like they did for a brief shining second, but it gets called no goal immediately, with Connor Zary being called for interference against Nick Seeler. What did you see on that play?
On one hand, Connor Zary did give him a pretty good shove. On the other hand, Nick Seeler went down like a tree. Maybe he had poor footing. Maybe he has a bad shoulder. I don't know. It's hard to tell from my vantage point, but it was definitely the wrong penalty to take at the wrong time, because the Flames, it didn't seem like they'd be able to get too many more past Carter Hart, and you take one of them and just sort of wash it out on a penalty. Regardless of whether you agree with the call or not, it's kind of a tough look.
Yep, not what you wanted to see from the youngster on I guess, a more quiet night. We saw Zary only had about just shy of 12 minutes of ice time, which hasn't really been the norm for him as of late. But he hasn't really played in too many NHL games that were really this style.
Yeah, and especially I would say, we talk about, I think we talked about this a lot during Johnny Gaudreau's first season, and we talked about this a bit, about how Matt Coronado would withstand the NHL schedule. The AHL schedule is very similar to a college schedule, even similar, case in point to the Western League schedule, where it's a lot of travel in a frenzy around a weekend, and then you're basically at home practicing, or very rarely are you ever on a long road trip like this. So this might be one of the longer stretches of travel that Connor Zary has experienced in his hockey playing life, especially at this level. And, I think it's natural that of all the guys that sort of have their play go down a half notch on a long road trip, it would be the guys, the Pospisil's, the Zarys, or the younger guys who haven't been through it as much, so they don't really know firsthand what to do to manage their energy. So, I think this will be really interesting to see how the Flames manage things on the back-to-back, because, they're immediately on a plane. They fly to Chicago to face a Connor Bedard-less Chicago Blackhawks team, and they have two extra bodies that they have at their disposal in Yan Kuznetsov, who has played 0 NHL games, and Walker Duehr, who has played, I think, 1 in the last month. And, are they going to rotate guys in for energy? Maybe. Are they going to, we'll see who hits the ice tomorrow. But I think folks would be hoping for a little bit more out of Connor Zary tomorrow, because when he's on, the Flames are a team that, bless their hearts, they're a well-constructed team in the sense that they have, depth lines 1 through 4. They don't have any stars. They don't have any difference makers outside of maybe their goaltender. And so they need to be a team that has, Blake Coleman said it after the Nashville game. Flames hockey is 4 lines rolling and them just churning through lines, playing hard and wearing teams down. They didn't do that tonight, both because of the, some kind of quiet performances, but also the way that the special teams was in this game. So, for tomorrow, maybe stay out of the box and maybe some guys can have a little bit more jump in their step.
I've gone about as long as I can without talking to this guy. We're going to do our DoorDash. Ooh, sorry. Hungry for more with restaurants, groceries, pharmacies, bakeries, flower shops, and more. They've got everything you need. You know how it works. Open the app, choose what you want from where you want. Your items will be left safely outside your door with the contactless delivery setting. With Double Dash on DoorDash, you can also order from multiple restaurants or stores in the same delivery without any extra fees, so everyone gets what they want and what they need. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more. What's the code, Ryan?
It's Nation25.
Excellent work there. Nation25. Hungry for more? I could watch this Jacob Markstrom all day. All day.
Yeah.
That was the second most shots he's faced in a game this season. And they were in this game by the grace of Markey.
I love Jacob Markstrom because when he's on his game, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's been, I think, really, really good since he came back from that injury absence from when he broke his finger. He's been fired up both on the ice and in media scrums. He's been, I'll say this, when he's snarky, that's when he's feeling confident about his game. That's sort of the barometer for me. And, in this game, he was physically engaged. He was, if you look at the goals he gave up, like, what was he supposed to do on any of those goals? And, we hear you, comment section. We love you. There's been a tendency for Jacob Markstrom to give up early softies, even just early goals, period, even if they're nice chances against. But, when he's on his game, he's on it early and, he gives his team a chance to build their game. And, if he's going to be, credited with the loss in this game, because that's how hockey works. But this loss was not on him. I agree with you. If there's 42 games left after this year, 43. This is game 39, so there's 43 games left. If the Flames get like 15 to 20 performances like this from Jacob Markstrom, I don't know if they'll make the playoffs or not. They don't pay me well enough to have that kind of prognostication ability. And if I would, I'd probably be richer than I am. But man, if he's close to this good from here on out, they're going to have a fighting chance.
Yeah, and you have to look at the quality of the shots he's facing too. It's not quite like the Flames are just keeping the Flyers to the outside and they're just firing perimeter shot after perimeter shot on him. There were 2 shorthanded 2-on-1 stops in the first period alone. Those were insane. And then we saw the Flyers. Who was it? It was oh, this is going to kill me now. Atkinson came in on the 2-on-1. Yeah, stones him in close. Unfortunately, Cam Atkinson was hooked on the play, and that does lead to a Flyers goal. But then again, you see Blake Coleman have an uncharacteristic, awful giveaway. Couturier has so much time, space, and opportunity, and it's just larceny by Markstrom to keep the game tied.
And then add in the handful of chances in the first period that were saved by the grace of their defense. I mean, there was Nick DeSimone sweeping a puck that was dribbling towards the goal line in, I think, the first minute of the game. And then another one where, poor Rasmus Anderson had to defend a 3-on-1 all by himself. I mean, this was not a great defensive game for the Flames, and it could have been out of hand very quickly with someone less capable between the pipes.
So that's my hungry for more. What are you hungry for more of?
Oh, goodness. I would like to see more of let's call it the regular Connor Zary. Connor Zary is quite a good hockey player when he's on his game and he's, engaged in the play. But this was just kind of a game where he was a little bit more in the weeds, a little bit more in the background. We saw the very good Connor Zary on Thursday night against Nashville, where he made probably 3 or 4 great plays. I think 2 or 3 of them led directly to goals, and he was all over it. This game, I think maybe the physicality maybe kept him to the outside a bit more than he usually is. But he was one of many guys that were sort of a little bit more tentative than we were used to seeing them. But when Zary isn't tentative, he's arguably their most dynamic player right now. And if we can see him back to the regular Zary against Chicago or against pretty much any game going forward, it'd be a big boon for the team, because he's one of those guys that sort of has that it factor to basically change the positioning of the game. So he might be the closest thing the Flames have to a burgeoning star right now. And, we might see a few more of those guys come up over the next few months, as who knows what happens between now and the trade deadline. But right now, Zary is the guy getting that opportunity. And, he wasn't on it tonight, but there's been other games where we've seen it from him. And, I think as much as, if Cami, it's probably unfair of us to go, damn, that 22-year-old rookie wasn't a difference maker for this hockey club. How dare he? But he's played well enough during the preceding 28 games that's the expectation. He's shown that he can play that well. And so that's been the standard that he set for himself. And, if he wants us to have lower standards for him, too bad, because he's already shown he can be this good. And so that's sort of the expectation now until it changes. So, a little bit more Zary would be nice.
But I think something we talked about this earlier this season was that it would be interesting to see how some of the guys like Connor Zary and in the AHL, Matt Coronado, start to handle things around this time of year, because Zary's playing at such a higher, more physical level being in the NHL. Coronado's playing like really his first long season compared to the university season. But I look back over the last 4 games for Zary, other than the Nashville game where he's up around his usual, about 18 minutes a game. Before that, it's 13 minutes. Before that's 11 minutes. Tonight, it's just shy of 12 minutes. Is this just like a little bit of a wear and tear thing? Or is there anything he could be doing or the team could be doing to kind of reinvigorate him a bit in a tough time of year?
I think this is where depth comes in, because if you're not afraid to throw your fourth line out there, and if you're not afraid as a coach to sort of shuffle things up, then you have the ability, case in point, the third period, I think it was pretty obvious, between the special teams and just his overall performance, that Connor Zary, too many guys with C names in this team. Connor Zary didn't really have his A game tonight. So in the third period, he was sort of de-emphasized a bit, and they sort of rolled a bit more with the other guys. And, we saw Jonathan Huberdeau take a seat for a third period when he wasn't feeling it. I kind of like how Ryan Huska seems to have a good handle on which guys are feeling it and which guys aren't. And I don't think he's shown any fear in sort of parking guys and just saying, it's not your night. Just hang out, watch. We might throw you out for later on overtime shootout, wherever. But he's done that, and I think that's the kind of thing. I think that having a coach like Huska, Ryan Huska, one of the criticisms I've seen from him on the various message boards, websites, wherever, is, man, Ryan Huska doesn't have a great record as a pro coach. And yeah, if you're going by, here's his win-loss record with the Stockton Heat and that 1 year in Adirondack, yeah, his wins and losses weren't sterling. But the mandate from the Flames then was, your job is to get guys ready for the National Hockey League. And part of that is getting a handle on what motivates these guys, but also getting them to be open with you about, here's what I have in the tank today, coach. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's my energy level. Here's if I'm fighting it. Here's what it'll look like, those kind of things. And I think that Huska's experience with these young guys throughout his playing career, or throughout his coaching career to this point, gives him the ability to sort of know when guys just aren't feeling it, and to sort of know when you need to, pull the ripcord on somebody for the night and just say, hey, he's done it with Pospisil, he's done it with Zary, he's done it with other guys. Just the tap on the shoulder saying, yeah, you're third period, just hang out, grab some water, grab some popcorn, just hang out. Well, especially on a back-to-back, goodness knows Connor Zary is going to have a lot of ice time tomorrow if he's feeling it. So,
speaking of the younger guys, a little bit of history today for Admiral Ruzicka, suiting up for his 108th game for the Flames. He becomes the longest tenured Slovakian player in franchise history. So Samuel Honzak, there's the bar you have to hit. But what are your thoughts on what Ruzicka's done lately?
Okay, I know you know this. Who did he pass? Who did he break the tie with amongst noted Flames Slovak players?
Oh, no, I wrote it down earlier.
There's two of these guys who played.
Hit me with it.
Ronald Petrovicki.
Yeah.
There's two of them. There's brothers. There was a Robert who, I think Robert Petrovicki didn't pay for the Flames Ronald did, I think. Now I have to look this up.
Yeah, pause for silence as we both pull up elite prospects.
What a wonderful website. Robert.
Yeah, but Ruzicka, I think there's still probably you want more from him, but now I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm not quite sure what his role is and what the expectations are for him.
That's for me, that's the big challenge with him because, we've played this game and honestly, I think this is sort of the game the Flames are playing. If you're mapping out how are things going to go this year, they have Jacob Pelche skating again. Jacob Pelche doesn't require waivers, so he'll probably go down to the Wranglers whenever he's healthy. We haven't heard a specific timeline, but let's just ballpark at a month. Let's say, in a month or 6 weeks from now, they send him down and he gets a couple weeks down there. I think the challenge is for the Flames, at some point you either have to say, Adam Ruzicka is our guy, and here's the role he fills for our team, and hooray for everything. Let's do this. And, I'll say this, I think they've done a nice job figuring out what Connor Zary can do really early on. So if you're trying to map out Connor Zary's progression, I think you have a lot of information, positive information to work with. I think with Ruzicka, because of his consistency and honestly, to a certain degree, because of how the previous coach used young players, sort of moving them up and down and all over the place, I don't really know whether Adam Ruzicka is a center because he hasn't performed well at center, but he hasn't really gotten a clear role with clear line mates. And is he a winger? Well, maybe kind of, but if you look at the other guys who are, the prospective top 9 wingers in this team, you're going to need to have a spot for Matt Coronado pretty soon. You're going to need a spot for Jacob Pelche pretty soon. In a year or so, you might need a spot for Samuel Honzik and, probably Adam Klapka too. So there's a lot of guys that they want to try out that they have information on at the AHL level, but they want to try them out in the NHL level. But there's only so many spots. And if you're a man without an obvious role, like Adam Ruzicka, like, what do you do with him? I think and I feel for the guy because, to a certain extent, he was sort of hamstrung by how he was used, but he's been given opportunities in specific roles and they say, okay, go get it the same way that Connor Zary has. And Connor Zary went out and got it. Whereas Ruzicka just hasn't really grabbed hold of it the way I think they might have hoped he would. So I don't know what he is, Cami. I don't know. And I wish I had a better answer than I don't know. But if you go into the Flames hockey ops room and say, what's Adam Ruzicka? I think you might get a series of befuddled shrugs too, because I think they're trying to figure it out too.
I think a lot of us really expected or hoped that we would start to see a bit of a breakout from him when the Flames went on that early season road trip last season, where he did start to have like quite a bit of offensive output, but then it sort of seemed to shrivel up. It felt like it was streaky, but then like the streak just never really hit again.
Yeah, and we sort of had that last year too. Like, remember, he sort of had that initial stretch where I believe he was playing, I want to say with Backlund and Huberdeau for a little bit. And, he's a guy that he doesn't play without skill. And that's I think the big challenge. And it's, as an aside, it's very rare that you'd see a fourth line center on a power play unit for an NHL club. But that shows you the type of faith and the type of belief they have in him and his skill ability, but just putting himself in the ability at in the positions at 5-on-5 to create offense. I think that's the missing piece for him right now. And, the knock on Ruzicka dating back to, when he was a first-year import in the OHL was sky's the limit for him skill-wise, but, he's also one of those guys that dating back to when he was, probably a young kid, there's been no shortage of skill there. And he's probably been the most skilled player on his team, in his league, in his town, up until he hit the OHL. And even in the OHL, he's one of those guys that could just skill his way out of situations. Whereas at the pro level where, even in the American League, at the American League, you're playing with guys that have been the best guy in their town, in their league, and wherever, and have turned that into a profession. And they're doing, 30-year-old guys doing this for a living. And the type of physicality and the type of game management, the game completely changes at the pro level. And Ruzicka's kind of figured it out in spurts. We've seen at both the AHL and NHL levels, like 5-6 games of just pure brilliance, and then 5-6 games where he just looks completely ordinary. And I think that's the frustrating thing with him, because if he was just a bad player, if he had no skill whatsoever, I think it'd be easy for folks to look at him and go, he sucks, get rid of him. But because he's shown the ability to be so good, he's got those skills, and it's just a matter of can someone just unlock the piece of it that allows him to do that day in, day out.
If anything, though, it does make it a really interesting time to watch the Wranglers. They're first in the Pacific right now at 29-3. They're back at it against the Silver Knights tonight. They're dialed now. Trent Cull says they beat Henderson 5-1 yesterday. Emilio Pettersson had a goal and a couple of assists. He's not a prospect that we hear people talk about as much.
I mean, maybe we should. I mean, I would say Emilio is sort of one of those guys that's sort of been, for lack of a better term, kind of Ruzicka-y, because he's such a skilled player. He's he hit the scouting community when he was like 12 or 13 because he put together YouTube videos of him just puck handling. I think one of his family members put together just sort of videos of him stick handling, doing trick shots and stuff. Like he's been so damn good skill wise from a young age. And I think, he's one of those guys that I think he's had to learn how to adapt his skill package to the pro level. And, we talk about Coronado, we talk a little bit about Ben Jones. Both those guys, I think, have been really good, consistent players for the Wranglers this season. But, I wouldn't be shocked if we see Emilio Peterson. I said both, so one of them's got to be right. Emilio Peterson. I think we'll see him up at the NHL level at some point, because, he's flat out, he's earned the chance. He's been one of their better players, and he's one of those guys that when he gets hot, he can start taking over games. And we saw that, he had 3 points in a period against Henderson, and Henderson is not a bad team. They've lost a lot of players because Vegas keeps getting injuries. So a lot of their best players have been sort of going up and down. But, it was a situation where the game was sort of back and forth. And then Emilio and his line just went, okay, we're taking over. And they took over. And there's few guys in the organization, I think, skill-wise, that have the ceiling that Emilio does. It's just a matter of figuring out if he can do it on a consistent basis.
And really, who's going to have the drive to make things happen day out like Sari did?
Yeah, I think we were all wondering if, we could see Connor Zary put it together for longer than 5-10 games, and it's been going on 30, and he's been one of the, I'd say if you go by game score, top 3-4 player on the Flames since he arrived. And, his reputation and the expectations that go with it are fully earned at this point.
Again, really probably too early to see Oliver Shillington. What is third, fourth day back with the organization to be suiting up? Definitely not. But you had a chance to see him skate. How's he looking? How's the demeanor and kind of the vibe around the ice with him there?
I only saw a video. I wasn't there, but
okay. Shoot, sorry, I thought you were.
Everything I saw looks good. I mean, he's Oliver Shillington is basically, I put him amongst the top 4 or 5 pure skaters I've seen in my life. He's got amazing edge work. He's got amazing energy, and he's one of those guys that can go from full speed straight to full speed backwards in like half a second. He's just got it. And, he had an amazing 21-22 season with the Flames. I think, how many people had seen him on their way up and gone, oh, if only he gets a chance. And then 2 or 3 years in a row, Brad for Living kept bringing in veteran defensemen, checkers to come in and be the third pairing guys in place of Oliver. And, he finally got his chance to play an everyday role primarily with Chris Tanev. And he was spectacular. He was, 30 point season, many goals, many very good plays. Defensively, he was able to use his edge work to skate himself in and out of trouble. And, you're hoping, we're always rooting for good people. And he's a guy that, he moved to Canada, or actually moved to friggin' Stockton, not just Canada. He moved to Stockton as an 18-year-old.
Murder capital USA.
Yeah. The town that, Jacob Nakladal called a little bit danger. He moved away from his home country, his family at a young age because he wanted to chase his dream and he believed himself. And, Ryan Husk and his staff are basically told, teach this kid how to play defense. He was amazing with the puck, but away from the puck, work in progress. He put in the work. He earned his spot in the NHL. And, you're just hoping that he feels up to playing games at any level at this point because he's so damn good. And, I think that the nice thing is, people are recognizing now that mental health is part of the health package. And I think there's a lot more understanding and recognition that all parts of people have to sort of be in sync to perform at high levels. And, I can't think of a more stressful environment than playing professional hockey in any market, let alone a Canadian market. So you're hoping that, Oliver feels like he can come and do that again, because he's put in so much work and, faced so many challenges away from home as a young man. And, he's an easy guy to root for. I mean, in this business, you don't root for teams, you kind of root for people and for stories. And, Oliver Shillington getting a chance to play games, if that's what he wants to do, would be an amazing story.
A guy we're all rooting for on and off the ice, for sure. One last AHL note for me. Mark Russell, love to see a hometown guy score in his AHL debut at the Dome after getting the call up from the ECHL. So cool. Hope he can continue it. Hope there's a path forward for him in pro after Canadian University. He won a couple of AUS championships, won U Sports championship with the UNB Varsity Reds. Always an insane team. These guys, I mean, he was in the dub for pretty much the full gamut. I think he
Medicine
was
Hat
Hat captain. Yeah, but these guys don't magically start to suck at 21. And I wish Canadian University hockey would start to get its fair due.
Hey, I mean, Derek Ryan, who are the brothers?
Golden Bear?
The brothers who both went through the U of A as well. I'm gonna forget their names.
What a bunch. There was another guy.
One of them signed with the Flames, one of them signed with the Oilers.
Oh no.
I can't remember. Well, this will come to us in the break. But yeah, we're starting to see more and more U Sports guys. I mean, the nice thing is now, if your people mature and their games come together at different points, pretty much goaltenders now don't even really become good until like 25 or 26. And if you're a young hockey player, I mean, we saw Zach Sawchenko is one I can think of that, he was a really good Western leaguer, couldn't find any opportunities at the pro level that were to his liking. So he went to school, got a degree, and now he's playing, I believe, in the Sharks organization.
We saw Riley Sawchuk leave Mount Royal after being one of the most prolific scorers in their history, and their playoffs ended. And he walks into a pro contract. Julian McKenzie, friend of the show, just texted me and reminded me of one of my favorite former Nashville Predators, Mr. Joel Ward, a UPEI Panther.
Yeah, Joel Ward, Noah and
Joel
Luke
Ward when he was in the league.
Luke Philp signed with the Flames. Noah Philp signed with the Oilers. I think Luke eventually ended up in the Oilers organization somehow. But I mean, hockey's hockey, and if
go watch the Crowchild Classic.
What is that? I'm getting excited for that.
It's coming up. Oh, let me grab it.
It's later this month.
Yeah, back at the Dome. And those are like always guaranteed to go to overtime.
There's too much stuff happening at the Dome now, and by that
January
I mean
24th at 4:30.
So we got a bunch of Roughnecks games. We got Hitmen, we got Flames, we got Wranglers, we got the Surge in May, we got the Crowchild Classic.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the busiest buildings in North America for a reason. But we are not done talking about the kids. We're going to take a quick break. We've got the road ahead coming up next. We've got your questions. We're also going to talk about whether Connor Zari's case for the Calder has just changed. Stay tuned.
Derek Newman of Newman Deems Real Estate Group with CIR Realty are proud sponsors of Afterburner. Born and raised in Calgary, Derek not only loves talking sports, golfing, but he's an avid sports fan. He's happy to talk sports or real estate with you. Complimentary in-house staging consultations, finding homes not on the market. If you're buying for the first time or a seasoned seller of homes, chat with Derek and he'll help you achieve your goals. If you're interested in buying or selling in the greater Calgary area, call Derek or text him at 403-619-6661 and let Derek put his network to work for you. That's Derek Newman for Newman Deans Real Estate Group with CIR Realty.
We are well into the winter months now, and you can feel it, can't you? That urge to get away. Maybe some beach time to warm up those bones of yours, maybe a hockey, sports kind of road trip. Well, when you pack your bags, make sure you don't forget Alberta Blue Cross. There's only one thing better than sharing memories, and that's making new ones. Alberta Blue Cross Travel Insurance protects your memories and more, wherever travel takes you. Visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information. Alberta Blue Cross, celebrating life's memorable moments inspired by hockey.
It's hockey season. Get ready to cheer on your favorite teams with us at the Stage Bar at the Grey Eagle Resort and Casino. Enjoy the game on one of their huge, large screens with friends, drinks, and delicious food. Let's go. Visit GreyEagleResortAndCasino.ca for more information. How about this information? Happy hour. Doesn't get much happier than this. 3 hours of happy hour. Let's make the most of the day and your afternoons with great drinks and food. Join us at the Stage Bar and Blaze Bar and Grill for the new happy hour. Every day, 2 till 5. Great food, specialty drinks, all starting at $5. Visit GreyEagleResortAndCasino.ca for more information.
We're back with The Road Ahead, brought to you by Village Honda at the Northwest Auto Mall and online at villagehonda.com. New in-stock inventory on ground. Start your automotive adventures at Village Honda, where new vehicle pricing is MSRP. Huge selection of used vehicles as well. All makes, all models, all budgets. Over 70 units on site and access to over 400 more in their dealer group. You can make Village Honda your one-stop automotive destination in Calgary. Definitely worth the trip, and Village Honda located in the Northwest Auto Mall. So, huge bummer. Obviously, we have a back-to-back where Calgary is in Chicago tomorrow. No Connor Bedard in the lineup. He has suffered a fractured jaw after a huge hit from the Devils' Brendan Smith. Blackhawks didn't specify how long he could be gone, but if you look at similar injuries like Boone Jenner last month, it seems to be 4 to 6 weeks at the minimum, which also seems that we will not have Connor Bedard back at the Saddle Dome later this month. I think that was January 27th was supposed to be that game. I went on a Ticketmaster and I wanted to see, like, was the Bedard bump real for the NHL like it was in junior hockey? And yeah, like the Reds are just people who've put up resale tickets, but there's only a handful of.
I think there's going to be a few more Reds on that after the news.
Yeah. Which is a huge bummer for the fans. It's worse for Bedard. I remember talking to him when he was here, like after World Juniors, where just everyone was clamoring to get a look at him when he was still in junior, when, you know, the price was $35 and not $100+. But he said when he was here at the Saddle Dome, that was the biggest game he had ever played crowd-wise. The Flames didn't, or CSEC didn't open up every single seat in the building for that one, but it was 17,000 plus, and he was loving that. So it's a shame we won't get that, and probably opens the door for Connor Zary to be truly more involved in this conversation. If he can kind of pick it back up, well, old Connor's healing up and enjoying a nice boost or an Ensure. I don't know if they have anything better for people with fractured jaws these days.
He's going to be drinking a lot of stuff through straws. So, I mean, whatever they can put in a blender, he'll be drinking to try to get back. But yeah, it's disappointing. We're all just giant hockey nerds at this point, and you want to see a good show. And you know, whether you like Chicago or not, Connor Bedard always puts on a good show, and you know, it makes tomorrow's game, the afternoon game, kind of a bit less exciting, and especially that game at the Dome will be a little bit less noteworthy. So, I mean, you know, hopefully he can, you know, supercharge his healing and come back with a bubble on or something, because you know, you hate to miss a chance to see somebody who's that talented.
It's shades of Connor McDavid when he took that hit in his rookie year.
I'll say, didn't Connor McDavid also win the Calder that year by a walk?
Was it him or Panarin?
I gotta double check.
The Calder's like the one trophy where I don't even try to remember. Like, I'm pretty sure first overall draft picks, I think I can get it all the way back to Monahan to the Canadians in the 70s. Calder? No. Yes. Yeah, Panarin. Okay. Got one today. Got one quiz question today.
Yeah,
it's definitely it's shades of McDavid getting knocked out when he was just so entertaining to watch. So that's a bummer. And there will also be no Nick Foligno when the Flames roll in for that 1:00 start tomorrow. He's on IR with a fractured finger. So an already not great Blackhawks team has taken a walloping here.
Our friends at Cap Friendly threw this out there. Chicago actually has more cap hit devoted to players who aren't playing for them right now than players there are. If you look at the retained salary, the buried salary, and all the IR guys, I think they've got something like over $33 million in money buried or otherwise unoccupied. So, you know, it's the best team that $33 million and change can give you. And they're above the salary floor by the grace of God and by the grace of all kinds of retained salary and weird shenanigans. So I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I guess they're not quite in. They might not get Macklin Celebrini this year, but they're gonna get somebody pretty good at second or third overall, unless the hockey gods decide they hate the Sharks. Which my cousin's a Sharks fan. He always claims that the universe is conspiring against the Sharks. Just watch the Sharks lose the lottery and Chicago get another all-world talent on their team, and yeah, people will have opinions about that if that happens.
Listen, the Sharks have at least historically picked higher than Calgary. But that'll wrap up. Tomorrow we'll wrap up that Quick Flames road trip. They'll try to end it at 3-1 and not a 2-2. Then they are back to host the Senators on Pride Night on Tuesday. I keep on being so excited for the Predators. Or pardon me, the Senators. And then it just doesn't happen. There's too much talent there for them to be like this.
It was brought up on Barn Burner this week with one of their discussions. For everyone waving the pom-poms and screaming rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. Buffalo and Ottawa have been in sort of a rebuild/build saga for decades. And at some point they've got to turn the corner. But I mean, Buffalo's got so many great young players that they just can't seem to coalesce into a team that's, more than the sum of their parts. And maybe it'll happen eventually. It might not happen this year, but yeah, Ottawa, they've got so many great young pieces, but the pieces haven't really turned into a puzzle that's worth much of anything quite yet.
Yeah, I love it. So what's Jerry say? Chat's going to be a hell of a time tomorrow when we inevitably lose 3-1 to the Hawks. Yeah, like for how positive it's been the past couple days. It's dark in there today. I'm like scared to look over on that computer.
Afternoon game, second half of back-to-back, last game of a long road trip where everyone involved is going to be just thinking to themselves, all right, 60 more minutes of this stupid game and we can get on a plane and be home and see our wives and family and children and animals and our beds. And
for like 2 days, and then you're off to Arizona to play the Coyotes. That's the Barn Burner vacation, and that will officially mark the halfway point of the season.
Woo, halfway home.
Halfway there, and then it is Saturday night in Vegas. Those have been awesome games this year. Both of them required overtime, and I mean they're dealing with some injury stuff there. I think I saw a report floating around that Vegas Brass is considering a trade or something to kind of kick their guys into higher gear.
Hey,
we'll see if that happens.
I'll say this: as far as I know, Craig Conroy's phone works. So, at some point the shoes have got to start dropping, or dominoes have to start toppling. We've seen all kinds of reports any outlet you go, if you throw a dartboard at anyone that puts out a trade list, 3 or 4 Flames are in the top 3 or 4 of that trade list. And at a certain point, the dominoes are going to have to start toppling, right? So, I'll say at some point, friends, you're going to need a program to be able to remember the names and numbers of all the players. So could be fun, could be weird, could be chaos, but at some point, the dance card is going to start rolling, right?
Absolutely. Buckle up. All right. We'll see if we have any questions here. Jack, what do we got? Was there any penalties from the game-ending scrum? I think there were 6.
Let me double check.
I didn't go to school for math, though.
Yeah, they didn't say you to math at school. I went to school for too much math. That's the problem. That's why my classes are so strong.
Oh, my mom was a math teacher, and I was bad at math. And like those memes where you just see like kids crying on their homework or the homework paper just covered in tears.
That's
official me trying to do math.
The official. Oh god! At some point, I'll show you my. Next time we're both in studio, I'll show you my cap spreadsheet. I sent it to Cap Friendly, and they just went, 1, that's correct. 2, god damn, that's too much stuff. There was 3 sets of roughing minors: Lindholm, Hannafin, and Huberdeau for the Flames, Konechny, Sealer, and Scott Lawton for the Flyers.
And that's that on that. Which goalie do you think will get the start tomorrow? And do we expect the lines to remain the same despite the loss? I think the question, could we see Jan Kuznetsov make his debut? He's there.
I would think that'd be kind of fun. My only caveat is I don't think they skated on Friday. They got in late. I don't think they had a practice on Friday. and they didn't have a morning skate today. They don't have a morning skate on Sunday because of the back-to-back. And I think it'd be a lot to ask of a young player to go in, even against a Bedardless Chicago, in his first game. On the other hand, I mean, he's played with DeSimone, he's played with Gilbert. I mean, Gilbert's injured. That's the whole reason he's here. But he's played with the guys on the team, Australia, DeSimone, a lot of the other players. So it's not like you'd be throwing Kuznetsov in against, an NHL team with a bunch of strangers. And so, I wouldn't bet on it. Typically, we've seen the Flames on back-to-backs keep the lineup basically the exact same, maybe swap out the goalie. So I'd say if I were a betting person, I would say we see Vladar tomorrow and no lineup changes. If we see anything, I'd imagine it'd probably be swapping out somebody on the fourth line for Walker Duehr. I wouldn't bet on Kuznetsov, but I would love to be wrong because I think it'd be cool.
That would be a lot of fun. It'll be fun. How much of a difference will Shillington make on the power play if he makes it back to the Flames this season? The Flames have been getting a hell of a lot of offense from their defense. But right now we see first power play. You have Anderson as the D-man out there. You get Hannafin out on the second. I don't think he would overtake Anderson for that spot, but could you see him being a better option than Hannafin? Should he still be with the team? Should Shillington get back up here?
I'd say probably your first two units are Anderson and Weegar. And then, I really like the way the Flames used him, 2 years ago. They usually had him as the term they use is the bump up pairing. After a PK or a power play, you throw out a pairing and a forward line just to keep momentum going and, turn the tide a bit. And if you're playing against a tired team that's been killing against your power play, and then you have Shillington skating circles around you, he scored quite a few goals 2 years ago, coming in right after power plays and then just picking up the scraps against a bunch of tired guys. So that's really worked. And so my guess is if he comes back, that'll be kind of a role they ease him into. But I'll say this, I don't think there's any options that are off the table for players. Once players are made available to the team, I don't think they're really going to be, saying no to, like, this is a team that has a 22-year-old guy who made the first unit of the power play after 10 games because they didn't really have anyone who was playing well enough. So if Shillington or whoever plays well enough, they'll push them to the first unit as fast as they can.
Also, shout out Mackenzie Weegar, got his 9th goal of the season tonight. He's now 4th on the Flames in goals, and that is officially a career season for him in goal scoring, better than the 8 goals he put up to go along with his 36 assists in 2021-22 with the Panthers. That made him such an attractive trade chip for the Flames.
He's been very quietly since last All-Star break. When he spoke to us at exit interviews, he said he didn't really feel like himself or fully comfortable until All-Star break last year. Over the last close to 80-some games, he's quietly been, a top 20 offensive defenseman in the NHL. And, for a guy that, we throw bouquets and plaudits to the Makars and the Yossis and so in the world, and well-deservingly so. They're all very, very good. I think we're sleeping on Mackenzie Weegar a bit. And I don't know if people outside of this market really see how great he can be when he's on his game, especially, again, since last year's All-Star break, he's been really, 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 really good.
That he has. Any other questions we got there? If not, I have one for you, Pike. Who goes back to the Wranglers when Chili gets back? Cool. That is a long way down the road.
Well, if we want to get nerdy here, he's technically still on the IR. When his conditioning stint is up, he'll remain on the IR. He'll be on the IR basically until the Flames and the league doctors basically sign off and say, "Okay, you're ready to go." So if he says, "Hey, I'm ready to go. Let's have you play," they'd be able to activate him. Right now they have no open roster spots, but I mean, if he decides that he's ready, they would probably throw Kuznetsov down. But like Cami said, we're a ways away from that. I imagine they probably want to max out his conditioning stint length as much as they can, and then they'll see how he's feeling and see how he looks. And they're going to basically do everything they can to maximize his comfort. And so we'll see. But it's exciting that we're talking it like this because he's very good.
Question for you. Saw some trash talk around curling in the chat today. Give me your thoughts, questions, and concerns on the sport. Are you a fan?
I like curling. It's God, it's everyone who thinks, man, I could do that. Try curling for the first time. I did it in we had I went to one of those high schools where they sort of they basically put everyone in the grade into one pool, and then they tell you to split off for different units. So one of the units I did was curling, and the first time I went on the ice with my slider on, I just biffed it, and like probably about a half dozen of the class were like, curling's super easy, and then everyone just face planted right away on the first day, or alternately just landed flat on their backs and just got the wind knocked out of them because they didn't respect the ice too much. Curling's super fun. There's few
so
things.
Fun. If you don't like curling, you have weak triceps and a small brain, and I'm afraid that's the end of it.
You haven't really tried it. I mean, it's one of those sports where, I mean, I'll say this. I love the mixed doubles curling thing that they tried at the Olympics a few years ago, because there's some sports that if you want to tell me, hey, men and women shouldn't be competing against each other in sport, whatever, I usually think that's bunk. Curling's one where I think regardless of gender, everyone could play together and it would be a fair fight, because I don't think being stronger, bigger, whatever makes you a better curler. It's strategy and the ability to execute that strategy. I just want to see, so like every time there's a reason why very quietly the best television ratings in the Winter Olympics and the best I think some of the best gate receipts all the Olympics earn in the Winter Olympics is for curling, because because the curlers don't look like they're professional athletes, they look like people like us, and so it's easy to imagine yourself in there. And I think if you can imagine yourself in there, it allows you to connect with the sport a bit more and go, okay, what would I do in this situation?
But they're also shredded. To be clear, elite curlers are shredded.
They wear like 9 levels of sweaters over top of everything, so you can't see how jacked they are. But in my small brain, I can imagine myself being a curler, because I can convince myself that they're not in that much better shape than I am. They definitely are, but I can convince myself they're not.
In high school, when our curling team won regionals to qualify for provincials in Vancouver, where we got destroyed on the winning shot, me and our lead did the mitten toss and shot our mitts with our brooms to bring a little hockey celebration into it. Fantastic. But I see we've got a couple more questions popped up in the chat there. Jack, what do we got? From what you've seen from the Flames this season, do you think they will make the playoffs? If yes, why? If no, why not? I think this is going to be another situation where they will have the opportunity. Will they be able to seize that opportunity? It's probably going to come down to the last week. I think with the roster constructed the way it is now, they are too good to completely fail and bottom out. But I would not see them, best case scenario, getting out of a wild card spot. I think they top out at wild card 1.
I just don't think they have enough horses to get past if you look at the standings right now with the amount of teams, if you sort it by points percentage, they have a lot of teams to climb over, and their contractual situations alone mean that they're going to have most likely 2, maybe 3 or 4 important pieces just sort of disappear. They're not going to get nothing for them, but I mean, this is the year of evaluation. This is the year, I think we learned, for better or for worse, what we needed to learn about this group in October. When they looked aggressively ordinary for large stretches in October, and not to name names, but certain individuals that wanted to get hefty contracts here or elsewhere didn't really look like players that you could really be enthusiastic about giving that kind of money to. And so I think we're in a situation now where, you're going to have guys playing meaningful games into March and April, and they're probably not going to end up with a little X next to their name in the standings simply because of their depth and their lack of high-end difference makers. They're going to lose a lot of 2-1, 3-2 games. There's going to be a lot of nights that look like tonight where, they lose a close game and you go, oh, if only they had a weapon for the power play, or if only they had one more guy that can, make a big play at 5-on-5, they could have won this one. But it's also going to be a situation where you'll probably see a lot of new faces. You'll see a Pelche, you'll see probably Coronado again. You'll see a lot of other new faces get a chance to try things out. And, I think, I wrote something on the site about this. I think this is going to be a really transformative next 3 to 4 months for the Flames, but I think it's going to be positively transformative because, this team from 2003 to 2014, the Flames were built in Daryl Sutter's image. And from 2014 to basically now, they've been what Brad Treliving thought a hockey team should look like. And, they had some success, but they didn't exactly get to where they wanted to go. And now, the guy with his hand on the whiteboard is Craig Conroy. And we're going to get a chance to sort of see what's in his brain. And I think that's kind of exciting, especially, as someone who's gotten to know Craig over the last decade or so. He's got a lot of cool ideas. And I think we're going to see how he tries to manifest some of those ideas. So that's a long way of saying, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. And I'm not terribly upset about that because I think making the playoffs this year isn't really the point. It's about what you learn about the group this year and how you apply those lessons in the next 2 or 3 years so that the next time they make the playoffs, it's not, to borrow a phrase from a departed coach, 8 days wasted. You want the next time you make it to be something that people can get really jazzed about. You want the next run for them to go on to be like an 0-4 run that really galvanizes the fan base.
Give them a reason to Red Mile.
I couldn't say it more, Cami. That's probably the best way to put it.
When I moved here, I know sometimes some of my bosses would be like, get down to the Red Mile around playoffs. And I was like, what Red Mile? It's not what it once was. And that's just a fact, even if the team did have high expectations then. So we need a chance to really reinvigorate that. But that feels like a really succinct way to say it, Ryan. No, Jack, anything you wanted to pop in and say? Where are you at? We have to hear your voice at least once today.
I was going to bring up the curling thing. You're going to be not too happy about this, but I don't think I've ever watched curling or played curling.
Dude,
something that
dude.
I think we need a barn burner curling day because it is one of the best sports just to play for fun with friends.
Yeah. And it's one of those sports that you can play with a thermos of no one knows what's in it and no one's going to ask you.
Let's do it. We need to do more things. So let's do. I know Ryan goes curling once a week, so he'll be down.
That was why I filled in on Afterburner for the first time because he had to. He had missed so many curling games. He was pretty sure he's going to get kicked off if it didn't come cover for him.
You saved his career.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us. Afterburner is back tomorrow as the Flames take on the battered Blackhawks at One Mountain. We have Pike and Kent making his Afterburner debut. So today is Pinky and the Brain. Tomorrow is Brain and the Brain.
Oh, tomorrow we're just going to have a bunch of non-charismatic nerds. So if you're used to the savvy and professionalism that Cami brings to the program, you're going to be very disappointed on Sunday, but hopefully it's a game where we have some interesting things to talk about.
Thanks for hanging out today. Have a good Saturday, friends.